It's genius. It is actually the capacity to make ordinary people. In other words, an organization can have the best talent, but individually, that's absolutely fine. Two things. One, we need to make it such that it functions as a team. That organization needs to make it function as a team. It's no good having individuals playing their own game. And the second thing is to develop those individuals in order to achieve much more than individually that they can produce. So that's what this whole bit, this is all about. Coaching and mentoring is about this. So let me just introduce myself then. John Bentley. I've been in the region for the best part of 20 years in Dubai, and I'm an ex-IT guy actually, but then gradually I moved in and worked very, very closely with learning and development in the company. My last company was HP, Hewlett-Packard, and I ran the Middle East, the Mediterranean, and the Africa region for them. And I've had to put a lot of training on for many of my people. Now I think I've lost the screen for some reason. Why is that? Let me just see. Can you see the screen?
No.
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 No, we cannot.
Ah, okay, let me see then. Where's my presentation? Let me just go back. Let me try and put it back in. I have no idea why that has happened. Okay. And that, oh no, you can't, you probably can't see that either. Let me share. I'll share. No, that's not working. You cannot see the big screen there.
No.
No.
No. Okay. Something else has
I can only
happened.
see you.
Share. Just a minute. Share. It's gone. Okay, well, we'll try it again. Okay. Can you see that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, let me find the presentation. Where's the presentation?
There's the presentation. I
Oh,
want to use this, John. Okay, let's just do this now.
now you can
Some
see me
people see
again.
the screen.
Yes.
Guys, you can see it
Yes.
now.
Okay.
All we're doing is keep clicking that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, right. I had no idea why that disappeared, but I'll try it again anyway. Okay. So so there we go. I was saying that I've been in the region for this length of time. I got involved in a lot of training stuff, and I'm going to put these two organizations up.
Just click it.
Yeah, 6 Seconds and Neuro Leadership Institute. Who are they? So I got involved in training and in developing and in leadership. I decided to leave HP and do this myself because HP couldn't invest any more in education. They were splitting the company, so it was going through a bad time. So I did it. This is over 11 years ago now. So I went and studied with 6 Seconds and the Neuro Leadership Institute. Why am I telling you this? Because both these organizations provide coaching. 6 Seconds provide coaching. They're the largest emotional intelligence neuroscience network in the world. And so I work very closely with them. I do assessments for all manner of leadership based on emotional intelligence. And the Neuro Leadership Institute is an Australian organization. That's where I did my coaching. Brain-based coaching. What is a brain-based coach? It's all to do with business coaching, not life coaching, business coaching. And in turn, that is all about improving self-development, professional development, ultimately to improve performance. So I do all these things. It doesn't matter what they do there. The one thing, these are all assessments that I work with. The one thing I will say is that everything I do is regulated and accredited by the International Coaching Federation. Anybody can pull up a book now and say they read it and say I'm a coach. But unless you've been through this rigorous ICF training and examination and so on, then you haven't really got the regulations. So all of 6 Seconds and Neuro Leadership Institute got be certified by ICF. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. I'm going to go into the backdrop a little bit. Then I'm going to look at the mentoring and coaching, some definitions, differences, what are the basics of mentoring and coaching. Now, some of you may know this stuff, but I can tell you that in my experience of doing this many times, there's often a confusion between mentoring and coaching. We'll test this out in a minute. And then we'll just look at goal setting for mentoring and coaching, make sure everybody's on the same playbook. And then I'm going to go through very quickly a very practical model for coaching. This is world-renowned, this Pro model, and I'll explain a bit more about that later. And then and the things we've got to be aware of when we're doing coaching and mentoring, some of the roadblocks, just be aware of them. So we'll look at that. Okay, so how did it all start? Well, it started with this fella, Timothy Galway, in the 1970s. In the 1970s, he actually published a whole new set of ideas on how you coach, essentially, sports people. Tennis and skiing and other professions like music, they all require a great deal of self-discipline and inner strength, which is what we all need when we're developing ourselves, because sometimes it doesn't go our way, or sometimes other things get in the way. We've got to maintain this discipline and inner strength. So what then happened was that Sir John Whitmore in the UK, he took this stuff, what Timothy Galway had, his ideas, and he applied it to the business side of things. So it was then applied throughout. Now, it's an interesting fact, actually. This is my ex-company as well, IBM. I worked for IBM in the UK. In the 90s, then, IBM was one of the biggest brands in the world here, a bit like Apple is today, the rock star of the corporate world. So when IBM was the first to adopt some of what John Whitmore was saying, business coaching in the world of business, then everybody took notice, all the way down even to Australia. They started to take notice. And so the fact is that we then graduated this. Most organizations today provide some elements of coaching, and it's not just the big companies like IBM or the Microsoft or anybody like that. It is also small and medium businesses. So this has got relevant to you, whatever your business size is. It does not matter. It's relevant to your business, but it's also relevant to you as an individual. So now, the other thing is that since the pandemic, business coaching has become very much a mandatory key leadership style. Not a nice to have, a mandatory key leadership style. That's because since the pandemic, our approach to leadership has had to change. Sometimes it hasn't changed at all, but it needs to for the future. So what Deloitte found is that when you do coaching, much higher employee engagement, retention rates than those who don't do coaching. ICF themselves have found this. This is interesting because the coaching market has expanded to 20 billion today. So you can see all these things here. You know, it's over 1/3 of all Fortune 500 companies utilize executive coaching at the top end. So, and then finally, virtual coaching, which we had to have since the pandemic, especially, increased significantly, and that market is increasing. So what is the difference now? What is the difference between coaching and mentoring? Now, I normally do this with breakout sessions. We cannot do that But so I do actually have a poll, but I cannot find the poll. It is not here. So let me see.
It's not giving us the option.
Never mind. Never mind. We'll get your views on this. So let me see. How many people think that coaching is a way of directing people to make decisions? Number one, a way of directing people to make decisions. Number two, a way of influencing people to make decisions and developing plans. So maybe not directing, but influencing people to make decisions and develop plans. Guiding and advising people to make decisions and develop plans by giving their advice based on their experience. Or is it number four, seeking a person's ideas towards finding a direction and planning the way forward? Now, does anybody want to comment on that? Anybody particularly? Which do you think it is? 1, 2, 3, or 4 in terms of coaching? What is coaching? Just can you voice it up? I can't get into chat either for some reason. There's no chat. So can you just shout it out? What do you think? How many people think? Well, who thinks it's one? A way of directing people to make decisions. Or
Number
two?
3.
Number 3, guiding and advising people to make
Number
a decision.
4.
Number 4, okay. So
Number
one is
4.
Number 4, yeah. So one is guiding and advising people to make a decision and developing plans by giving their advice. So some people think it's that, and some people think it's number 4, seeking a person's
I think it's
ideas.
number 1.
Number 1, way of directing people to make decisions. You know what? What you're saying here is exactly what I experience in so many of the workshops and so on that I run. There's quite a diverse range of opinions here on this. So we've got number 1, number 3, and number 4. Anybody else, quickly?
Influencing people.
Sorry?
Number 2. It seems number 2, a way of influencing people.
Yeah, okay. So now we've got 1, 2, 3, and 4. This is the chat. Okay, I have a chat.
It was number 3.
Okay, you can see that there is some confusion here. Now, this is coaching. Let me ask the same question for mentoring. It's the same thing. Which do you think is applying to mentoring? A way of directing people to make their decisions, a way of influencing people to make decisions, develop plans, guiding and advising people to make decisions and developing plans by giving advice based on their experience, or seeking a person's ideas towards finding a direction, planning the way forward. So we have all of
I
those.
think it's
Yes.
4.
Number 4. Okay, you think it's
Yeah,
4?
mentorship.
Okay. Okay, you think it's 4. Anybody else?
Yeah.
3?
I think
Number
yeah.
3.
Number 3. Somebody's saying 3. Okay, so we've got a fluctuating opinions here between number 3 and number 4. This is typical, folks. I can tell you now. It's absolutely typical of what people believe. Let me tell you that when I was at HP, we had a worldwide coaching initiative. Anybody could be coached and or become a coach. So I volunteered and I had a go at this. And I always thought I was a coach until I did the program. And then I found out, I wasn't a coach at all. So, all right, we've got mixed opinions. Thank you for that, because this just confirms that people are not necessarily sure what it is. There is quite a big difference. So I don't think you'll be able to hear this video. If you can't hear it, just tell me and I'll stop it. Just 1 second.
Should I become a coach or a mentor? Now, these are both very, very, very different roles.
Can you hear that?
Although they can seem really similar, so I'd love to
Yes,
shed
yes,
some
we
light
can.
on the differences
Yes.
between them.
Okay,
And
just
when
listen to
you
this
use
then.
each tool. So first of all, mentoring is about telling someone exactly what to do. Coaching fundamentally is about creating a space to allow the client to come up with their own answers. And there's a time to use both of them. So for example, purely mentoring is about finding someone who has the results that you want so they can give you the guidance on exactly what to do. For example, when I wanted to learn the skills of public speaking, I went out and I found a mentor, someone who had the results that I want. And then I listened to exactly what they've got to say. They say, do this, don't do that, move here, say this. And I'm thinking, fantastic. I now know exactly what to do. That's mentoring. So it's really getting advice from someone who has exactly the results that you want. That's mentoring. It can be applied to any area of life: cooking, learning to drive a car, playing the piano, becoming a speaker, becoming a coach. Now, coaching is a bit different because coaching, first of all, comes from the fundamental foundational idea that the client has everything that they need within them already, right? So they have the answers that they need, although they just don't know how to access them. And so the coach's role is to create a safe space for the client to be able to have their own awareness, their own understanding, their own unpacking. Where with mentoring, the person that's being mentored has no idea what the answer is and needs to be told by the mentor, hey, this is what I think you should do this and don't do that. When it comes to coaching, we don't actually give our clients personal advice. Now, a lot of people think that coaching is about giving people advice. Say, for example, you go see a relationship coach and they say, hey, well, what I did was this, and this is what I recommend you should do. That's not coaching. That's just giving people advice. Coaching is about understanding human behavior, which is understanding the codes and the patterns of our mind and the world of our emotions. Both of those things impact massively our own self-esteem, our ability to communicate with ourselves, and our ability to have long and lasting relationships with others, personally and in business. So it applies through so many areas of life. And coaching is 4 powerful things. Number 1 is it's creating a space to listen to your client. It still amazes me how many people have never truly felt listened to. We all have a need to belong, and that comes from feeling like we're heard and we're understood. The second part of coaching is about validation. Again, a lot of people live in what's called a validation vacuum. They never hear encouragement, or they never hear validation to hear the words, you're okay, you're doing great, or gee, that sounds like it would have been a real struggle for you. Now, the third part of coaching is the power of asking questions. And this is probably the most important part, to be able to allow the client to come up with their own answers, to ask clarifying questions, to ask really deep questions that get a phenomenal answer. It's been said that the quality of our life is determined by the quality of the questions that we ask ourselves or that are asked of us. The fourth part of coaching is about teaching. And sometimes when we're with our client, we want to educate them on how to actually access something within themselves. For example, this is how you feel an emotion, or this is how you set a boundary in your life, or this is how you clear your mind, for example. So I trust that's a great example of the difference between mentoring and coaching. They're both phenomenal tools. A lot of people become a coach and a mentor, and some people will decide on one or the other based on their preferences and based on what suits them. Now, if this has resonated with you in any way, shape, or form, and you'd love.
Okay, let me summarize what he's just said there. So some of you got it right and some of you got it the other way around, okay? And when I was with HB, that's what I did. I got it the other way around. I always thought that I was a coach, but actually I was a mentor because I did most of the talking. So with coaching, remember this. This is a fundamentally important slide because this tells it all. With coaching, you ask instead of tell. You ask to enhance both the individual's awareness, whoever it is, the person you coach is a coachee. So if it's your coachee, to enhance their awareness of themselves and also to enhance your own awareness and to help them move down the track. And then very often a coach knows nothing of that particular person's discipline. Doesn't mean to say they've got to be skilled in anything that particular person does. They're skilled in extracting the wisdom from somebody else. So with mentoring, though, now this is different. With mentoring, you're sharing experiences because the mentor has got tons and tons of experience in a particular subject, whatever that happens to be, or a range of subjects. And then that person gives advice and guidance and helps actually to formulate a plan. And a mentor knows a lot about the subject, So basically, a coach asks, and a mentor tells. So the asking bit is non-directive, and the coaching is directive. So there we are. A mentor then is some kind of expert, usually in work, and offers advice. Coach may not be an expert in the work, but is an expert in helping somebody unlock their own knowledge and problem-solving capacity. Why is coaching so important? Why has it been brought into the business? The reason for coaching is that what research has discovered is that when you coach somebody to help them find a direction or a problem, solve a problem that they have, then 2 or 3 or 4 things happen. But the main ones are, first of all, much greater deal of self-confidence that I've solved this problem. And the second thing is there's much more commitment to getting the to actually sorting out the problem, or indeed pursuing the goal, if that's what you're setting. Whereas if you tell somebody what to do, it's still important, but not everybody has the same commitment. Coaching is fundamentally more powerful when you're in that type of environment. So let's look at this then, just to confirm. So coaching is eliciting knowledge, and mentoring is the transfer of knowledge. Ask and tell. Okay. Now, question for you. Oh no, I'll come back to that. Let's just touch on mentoring then for a minute, because that's what this session is also about, mentoring. So it's very much this. Okay, it's got to be a very trusted relationship, by the way, between an experienced person, a mentor, and generally speaking, the mentee is a much less experienced person. And that could be anything, by the way. It can be even to onboarding somebody when they've just joined a new company, to understand the policies, the processes, etc., etc. So the mentor has the skills and the experience to share the results. So yeah, I quite like this one. John Crosby says mentoring is a brain to pick. So a mentor is somebody's brain you can pick, and it's in here to listen to your issues and a push in the right direction. Tell me, when is mentoring appropriate, do you think? Anybody? When is it more appropriate to be mentored than it is to be coached? Anybody want to volunteer? Abdullah?
I want to provide inputs, and this is here.
Now let me just turn the volume up. Say that again.
Yeah. As per your question, mentorship will be more helpful for a new engineer trainee where he's directly involved to any organization. So superior and experienced, knowledgeable, experienced person will mentee, will be a mentor, and he will be trained that fresh graduate people.
Yep, I'll go along with that, Abdullah. Thank you.
Actually, sorry, that was not Abdullah, someone else.
Oh, sorry.
But for any new skills or any new things in your life, you need to learn. You need a mentor.
When you're learning a new skill, absolutely, 100%. It's very often attributed to technical kind of training, but as I said before, it might not be technical. It might just be onboarding somebody. But it's appropriate when, I like it what whoever it was who said, you know, it's usually a trainee because trainees usually go into a lot of mentoring. And then it's also for people who wanted to learn new skills, and often learning on the job. And often mentoring can be a longer process, actually. It can be a process of 2 years or so. I've worked with ADNOC in the past, up in Al Ruwais and various parts in Abu Dhabi, and we had a mentoring program there. And they were on a 2-year mentorship program with a variety of different mentors. So mentoring can be a longer process, but it's also when you want kind of more immediate results on the skill that you're trying to acquire. That's when you use mentoring. Now, if we look at the responsibilities of a mentor then, if we just summarize this by saying they provide guidance and support, they help to set goals, and always they've got to be a bit challenging, but at the same time need to encourage people to move forward. And it's a sharing of knowledge and experience. Don't forget this one. A mentor must also provide feedback, and a mentee must be willing to receive feedback in the same way. So if you're a mentee, if anybody's a mentee, be open. Yeah, be open, because that's how you learn. And if you are giving feedback to somebody, give that feedback in the right constructive way. Help them learn. Always listen actively. This is one of our most difficult skills, by the way, is listening. We still struggle with listening. And then lead by example. This is where you, generally speaking, you have a reputation, and people know that. So you're very credible. And then you can celebrate achievements, even the small achievements. Don't forget to do that. Give yourself a pat on the back when you've achieved something, or congratulate somebody else when they've achieved something small. So the mentee then has to go into a mentee session with the right mindset. If you are closed mindset, if your mentee is there reluctantly, or is not in the right mindset, maybe they've had an upset, a difficult situation with something else, then we may need to think about, when I go into a coaching session, I also always ask people to start with, tell me, is there anything bothering you right now? Is there anything bothering you that's right uppermost in your mind? Most people say, I don't necessarily want to know what it is, but yes, there's a couple of things. Okay, are we able to park those? Can we put them aside and focus entirely on this session? And if they can't, we have another session. We change it. Set clear goals. Have clear and open communication. Be honest and open. And then again, the mentee seek and appreciate the feedback. Don't wait to be told what to do. Be proactive in your career development. That's fundamentally important. Now, coaching. Let's look at coaching then. So this is unlocking someone's their own potential, helping them to learn themselves rather than just teaching, opening them up. So there we have a coach, and we have somebody talking there. So there is a coachee. Now, question for you. In a coaching session, remember, this is a coaching session where you are listening to people and you are extracting information to help them decide on, this is, we'll go into when this is appropriate in a minute. But coaching, what percentage do you think a coach should be talking in a coaching conversation? And what percentage should a coachee be talking in a coaching conversation? Anybody want to tell me? What about a coach? How much talking do they need in a coaching session, say an hour and a half, whatever? How much do they talk in that time? Anybody?
I think 20%.
10%.
10%.
10%.
Okay. Well, we're definitely on the right track. We're definitely on the right track. It's actually 20%. The rule of thumb is 20%. 20% of the time. It depends actually what the coachee is asking of the coach. Sometimes the coachee will actually say, look, I need you to just guide me on this. Maybe it goes up a little bit, but most of the time, the rule of thumb, you listen to your coachee, and then you ask questions. So when is coaching appropriate? When do you think coaching is appropriate? Anybody?
I think it's more relevant in personal development, where you want the individual to explore more within themselves or explore more options outside.
100%. I think that's Maham.
Yes.
100% right. This is very often where you have these kind of career performance management or career discussions. This is the chance to allow people to express themselves and to help them explore their goals and so on. That's completely right. Sometimes, though, if it's a problem, if it's a real problem, and you don't want to go into a mentoring, or you are unable to solve their problem for you, then you can try that as well. So coaching is also good in problem solving, by asking the right questions. But overall, we tend to use this in career development, 100%. Okay, now what do we need to have as a coach? First of all, you need to have the right bond. You need to have the right connection. You have to establish that feeling of trust right at the beginning. So create a safe space for the coachee, and then they can talk about anything. And then also, be careful if you're coaching, and if one of your coachees say, this is what I want to do, and you say, no, that's ridiculous. You can't do that. That is definitely not coaching. Okay, that is bad management, actually. So you need to give validation, and you need to also say, okay, even if you don't necessarily think it's correct at the time, okay, we'll explore that. It's a good goal. It's a good goal. It's a good idea. We'll explore that then. So you park it, and maybe you have to come back to that. What else is there? So you ask these powerful questions, but do not provide any answers. And these powerful questions start with what, how, when, who. Be careful with why, because it depends how you say why. If you say why too strongly, it can be accusatory. In other words, why haven't you done this? Or it's better to say, so what's prevented you from moving this way in the past? So powerful questions, and then trying to get the coachee, stretching them to enable to discover the questions within themselves, the answers. And so really, it does take time, this, folks. It does take time. There's no question of that. But time has to be given. As I said earlier, certainly management styles now are developed. Coaching is a key leadership quality. It's a key leadership style. So what a good coach does are these things: listens, shows empathy. And the very first part of empathy is to listen, by the way, and then to show empathy and understanding. Explore. Okay, that's an interesting point. Tell me more, whatever. Okay, if this is the case, how do you think that you will achieve this? Whatever it is, we'll look at that in a minute. And then clarifies and summarize. Must make sure you do that so that you get agreement, so that you get accountability, especially for career development. Okay, are you agreeing to this goal? Has the correct mindset. Now, this is a coach. No good going into a coaching session if you just come out of a bad session with your boss. You're in the wrong frame of mind. Either take a break, try yourself to park it, or reschedule, because it doesn't work if you're in the wrong mindset. It's going to drag you down, because it needs absolute empathy, absolute connection for listening with coaching. And then always display positive and positive body language. It shows you're connected. So the central element then for both mentoring and coaching is setting goals. Both. We need to do that. I'm sure that most of you know what goals are, etc. But just to make sure, and now think about this also, by the way, you don't necessarily need to think about even your coachee or your mentee, yourselves, whatever you're setting your goals. It's the same thing. Question for you. What percentage of the population do you think do not have goals? Now, we could talk about the whole population in the world, or we could talk about the work. It doesn't matter. Work environment. Who wants to hazard a guess as to what percentage of the population do you think do not have goals? Anybody?
98%.
90 or 98%, ma'am. Yeah. Anybody else?
99%.
Wow, 99. Okay. I heard somebody say that again.
60 to 70%.
70%.
60 to 70.
60 to 70. Okay, 60 to 70. Now, all of you are kind of partially right here, because this is what Harvard find out. 83% on average of people do not have goals, according to the Harvard Business Review. They've done all this kind of research. So it's a staggering statistic. Now, why some of you might be kind of correct is this, because 14% of the population have got some kind of a plan. It's in their mind. It's not written down. It's not written down, but it's in their mind somewhere. And so of those people, they are likely to be 10 times more successful than those people, that 17% who don't have any goals at all. So at least if you've got them in your mind, I strongly recommend that you write them down then and put them into a succinct way of actually establishing those goals, achieving them. So clearly stating your goals, it sets you up to be significantly more successful, not just in your work. Sorry? Okay. So what is a goal then? The essentials of goals are these. You may know this stuff, okay? But this is the definition of a goal according to Wikipedia. I'm going to read it so that it goes in. So a goal, it's an idea, some kind of an idea of the future or some result that you'd like to achieve in the future. And that's either a person or a group of people, and they can imagine it, they can plan it, and they can commit to achieve. People endeavor to reach goals then within a finite time. That is crucial. So there's always a time limit. Now, if we look at that, just some of these things here, so goals tend to be broader in nature, valuable for setting a general direction. Sometimes they're quite abstract ideas, tend to be longer term, and it's the end result that you're trying to achieve. So things like this: increased profit margin, okay, how much by, when, etc. That's refining that goal. Increased efficiency, how much, in what area, how are we going to do it? That's improving that, that's enhancing that goal. But it's all these type of things. Improve, reduce carbon emissions, start a business, etc. So objectives take it the next step. The objectives are the steps forward. That's the key to this. So we have goals and then we have objectives, and they are the steps. Now, both objectives and goals need to be smart. And I'm sure that you've heard of SMART goals and SMART objectives. So anything you set, think about it along these lines. It needs to be specific, exactly specified, exactly specified. It's no good saying I want to improve my performance. Improvement in your performance in what exactly? And then maybe even narrow that down. Improve your performance in maybe giving presentations. Okay, that's good. In what kind? How are we going to know that when you've actually achieved that? How will we know that we've achieved it? Well, if I want to improve my presentation techniques, I suppose I would get valuable feedback from my boss, from my colleagues, from the audience, or from people I trust to tell me how I'm doing. Is it achievable? Now, it's got to be challenging, but not impossible. It's got to challenge you, but it's not going to be too onerous, okay, so that you can't achieve it. Perfectly feasible to improve your presentation skills, for instance. But it's not equally as achievable to become a crypto expert overnight. That's a little bit of a stretch because it takes a long time to understand that stuff. Okay, they've got to be realistic. Can I actually do this? Is this something I need to do? Is it what I want to do? Is it relevant to my objectives, to my job, to the company, whatever it happens to be? And then when am I going to complete this by? When am I going to seek my first piece of feedback or get whatever measure that I've set to determine this? So there's got to be a completion date. It's got to be timely as well. I mean, but that's all part of the completion date. So let me introduce them as we get close to the hour. Let me introduce you to the GROW model for coaching. So we've got to set goals in both mentoring and we've got to set goals in coaching. Okay. Now this is Sir John Whitmore, sadly no longer with us, but he was the one who took the ideas on sports training and converted them into business. This is the man where IBM and Microsoft and so very many hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of companies in the world have taken what he said and are utilizing. So he introduced this. It's not rocket science. It is very simple. It's the GROW model. And what it says is, well, what are my goals? But what is the reality right now? What options do I have to go forward? And what are the steps, if you like, the objectives to actually get there? So the GROW model then, what goals do I want to achieve? What is it that I'm trying to achieve in the future? But what is it that I have to overcome? What are there steps I have to do now? Many steps beforehand to enable me to reach that goal. Okay, so this is the reality. What is the current situation? What are the resources I need? What could be the limitations? What could prevent me from going down that path to find that goal? Okay, if those are the things, then what are the options that I have to overcome those limitations or that reality? What can I do? Okay, there's a big idea. Well, I could seek somebody who can help me, say, going back to the presentation example, I could seek somebody to help me to hone my skills, to perfect my skills. All right, so how are you going to do that? What steps am I going to take? How will you exercise it, etc.? And what's the timescales? What timescales are you going to put? Now, you can put the timescale up on the goal as well, by the way, but each individual activity or step or objective in way forward, it also needs to have a timescale, which ultimately should match up to the long-term time that you've set for your goal. So, some questions. I normally ask people for that, but I don't want to keep you, so we will skip that part. So these are just some examples of questions that you can ask a coachee about their goals. Even right at the beginning, what is it that you are hoping to achieve out of this session that we're in right now? What do you want to leave with? That's a good question. Okay, it can be the right at the beginning. And then what do you want to achieve longer term? And there may be a whole string of goals that people have. It's no good having 20 goals. That's going to not necessarily be achievable. You can put them down but then you have to refine them. How much control do you have over your own goal? What could happen? For instance, it could be that there's a lot of family pressure, or it could be that you've got another big project on. How's that go? Or it could be you're in the middle of education on something else. How's that going to impact this goal? Okay, then let's break it down. What is a short-term goal or a milestone on the way? Now we're getting there closer to the objectives there, but that's fine. Because if this is a huge goal, it's going to take too long, then we have to bring that forward. Okay, what's a shorter term goal? And we need to work on that one. We put the long-term goal, park it for the time being. It's too far away, or you know it's going to take too long. Let's look at a shorter term goal. And when, that's what I've said before. When is it that you want to achieve it by? Is it a positive, challenging? Is it attainable? How are you going to measure that goal? And where will you get support for your goal? If somebody says, well, I need this, I need that, I need that, that is actually a reality, because that could be a limitation or another few steps to go through before you can begin your goal, to make sure you can do that. Who else needs to be involved? My boss, and maybe you're their boss for that matter. By the way, if you go into a coaching hat and you are the boss, a coaching session and you're their boss, you put on an entirely different hat, okay? An entirely different hat. You only speak 20% of the time, because very often as bosses and as managers and so on, we like to guide our people and we speak 80% of the time. That's mentoring. Okay, reality. What's happening now then? So this is your goal. What has happened so far? Have you tried this goal before? What happened? What was the limitation? Who's involved in this? Do we need to get extra resources? When things are going to go bad on this, what's going to happen? For going bad on any matter at all, what will happen then? And what is happening to others directly involved in the goal? Yeah, that's an important question, because it could be some of your people who maybe even in succession planning, who's going to take over? What happens? What is the effect on others? So what have you done so far? Have you actually gone any way down the track in doing this? And what results? So is there anything missing? Is there anything missing that we haven't discussed that you'd like to think about now that could be causing that we've got to think about to overcome? What do you have that you're not using? Think about your talents, the person's talents. You know, when I used to go into coaching sessions with my own people, I used to ask them to do a SWOT first. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats of themselves. And actually, it's good for you to do that as well as in developing your own career. Do it. Go into the career session and share it. And maybe even your boss does. Ask your boss to do that and see how they match. And then also out of that, you'll find, this is my strength, but I don't think I'm using this particularly. I can utilize this to help overcome this reality, this limitation. And then what is holding you back? Could be family, could be your boss, it could be funding, it could be a whole lot of things, work pressure, all sorts of stuff. And then options. So, okay, there we are. We've got some reality now. How are we going to overcome these things? What else could you do? Now, it's important to ask, what options do you have? And don't say anything. Ask them to come up with the options. And you can see people often rolling their eyes. They sit back, they roll their eyes, and they think, well, here's an option. And, you know, in the back of your mind, you know that there are some options. You know it, but you cannot tell them yet. There is a way of doing it, and I'll explain. So, okay, what if time is not permitting, you don't have the budget or the authority, etc. If you're stuck, where could you get another suggestion? And who else might be able to help in this process for you? Is there anybody? Who has worked for you already? Sorry, what has worked for you already? And how could you do more of that then? Leveraging contacts, you know, whatever it happens to be. What do you think that I would suggest? There is a very powerful question. If your coachee is stuck, what options do you have? You've gone through 1, 2, 3. Okay, but you can see that maybe there's some others you don't offer. And then you say, is there anything else? Can you think of anything else? Nope, they're stuck. Then you can, if you know one or you think there's possibly one, you can go down to this one. Okay, would you like my input? 99% of the time, you've got a great bond. It's trust. It's all that. You're not breaking it because you're asking them. And they'll say, yes, please, I'd like you. Or, you know, what do you think I would suggest? That it's enabling you to put forward your own suggestions without infringing the trust that you have in soliciting it from them. Then you kind of go into a bit of mentoring mode. So you can mix mentoring a little bit with coaching, okay, as long as you come back out of it. But okay, this is what I would think. Do you think that's a possibility for you? Did you think of that? No, I didn't think of that. Would it be something you want to put down? Yes, it is. Okay, excellent. All right, we'll put it down and we'll develop that. And then, is there anything else you could do? What else? Anything else? Maybe you can think of something else. Okay, I've got some more input. Would you like to hear that? If you can't think of anything, and go back into it. So what's going to be your first step? Now you're going to move to the next stage. What is the hardest, the most challenging part of this for you? Which option do you feel you're ready to act on now? The lower hanging fruit, if you like. Then go to the way forward. These are the objectives. These are the steps. So what are you going to do? With this option here, what is it that you're going to, what can we do? What can you do? Will they just address your goal? Always align it back to the goal. When are you going to do it? What could stop you taking this step? Oh, well, there we are. Now we're thinking about it. Maybe I need to get some authority first. Okay, back to reality. All right, then how are we going to get this reality? What options do you have to get this authority? Well, I need to go see this person. Okay, put that down. Okay, now, how are you going to do that? When are you going to do it, etc.? Who needs to know? What support do you need? How will you get that support? What's your next step? Some simple questions. You see, they're all what, how type of questions here. Now, here's one. You can start to gauge your coachee or your mentee, using the same thing, their commitment. Can you give me your commitment, 1 to 10, where 10 is the highest, 1 is the lowest, on agreeing to take this action? So now the coachee or the mentee leans back and they think, wait, I've got this, I've got the, these are the realities. It's going to be 70%. 70%. Interesting. What is it going to take, or what is the reason for it being 70%? Well, it's time. I've got a project to finish. Okay. So should we then rate this goal, this step, maybe with a lower priority until you've done this? So it's a way of prioritizing the options and even the goals. If this affects the goal significantly, you can actually prioritize the goal. Oh no, this isn't, well, maybe it's goal number 2 then, because this is going to take a lot longer, whatever it is. But this is a very powerful one. You can tell at the moment. And when they do that, well, no, it's 10 out of 10. Okay, have I got your agreement for that? Write it down on your PDP, on your IDP, whatever it is, in your plan, that you're going to go for this 100%. Okay, so we're just after the hour there. Some final points here on the coaching. What a coach must do is ask questions and listen. I would say listen and ask questions. No, probably ask questions and then listen to the answer. But if somebody comes in immediately wanting to talk, listen. Build trust using the appropriate body language and voice. Very important. If you come on any leadership courses with us, you'll learn more about this because it's fundamentally important how you communicate. Ask permission to clarify and then to summarize. Always summarize and go through it with them. What you don't want to do as a coach, please don't interrupt, don't give advice, don't tell the coachee what to do, unless ultimately they ask you for your advice, but even then you get their agreement to do it. And don't set their deadlines for them. Let them do it. Now, if the deadlines are not matching with maybe some certain things that you think they should do, okay, question it, and let them go around that again. But ultimately let them agree to the deadlines. As a coachee, come in with an open mind. Now, if you're the coachee, be open to listening, be open to talking, be open to responding, be open to prepared to give, receive and give feedback. It's an open session. You can say what you should be able to say what you want. And don't forget this one. Take notes. It's the coachee's responsibility to take notes, especially when it comes to career development, because they're going to have to, you as a coachee, if you're doing your PDP, your IDP, whatever, you're going to have to complete that appraisal yourself. Commit to the next action steps. Commit. Be prepared to commit, but don't react to inferred criticism. Try to hold yourself back from that and understand what's behind that. There could be other motives. Don't assume them. Don't jump to conclusions. It's always bad to do that. So finally, as we come to the end now, what are the things that might get in the way of coaching, mentoring? Let's have a quick look and be prepared for this because it applies to both. So, first of all, lack of time and conflicting priorities. You know, it applies to everybody. It applies to all of us. The most successful people in life somehow manage to prioritize this stuff. They manage to organize themselves so that they can do it. So you can blame time, you can blame conflicting priorities, but there's always a way of organizing this, always. Yeah, poor communication. If you're not fully understanding what's going on, or you're not, you yourself are not communicating correctly, then that can sometimes be an issue. Yeah, this is one. Oh dear, you have a clash of personality with certainly if your coach is your boss, it can be the case. Then I would suggest maybe finding a different coach, or I would just have a discussion with your manager openly, or indeed a mentor. So this is also another one. Both you are resistant to feedback, maybe even the coach or the mentor is resistant to feedback. Judge it. And then a lack of commitment. I'm going into this. I don't really want to. I've got to do it. It's part of my program. But I'm going to have to do it. That's not really the way to approach it. Certainly inadequate training. If there's stuff that you need to do, put it in the plan because you need to be trained for it before you can get to that goal. And this one, the absence of trust. This is one of the biggest ones. That's why it's so important, folks, when you're in a coaching session, not to betray that trust by interrupting people, by not listening to people, by offering your opinions when they're not asked for. That's not building trust. That's not building connection with your coachee. So the trust is huge. Trust is absolutely essential in mentoring. Trust is essential in coaching. We do not have time to go into this. It's another subject altogether. But anybody that wants to know more about that, then I would suggest you sign up for one of our leadership or personal development courses because we go into it in much greater detail. I can tell you what trust is. We determine that between us. We can determine how we measure it. We can determine the components of trust so that you can constantly measure yourself and others in how you're stacking up in developing trust. But it is fundamental to success, is trust. It's fundamental to developing influence. And anybody, everybody, leaders need to have influence. By the way, we'll finish with this. Think about this. A leader, for some time now, this has been the case, but certainly most definitely after the pandemic, a leader is anyone who has a key responsibility to influence somebody to make a decision or to do something. To make a decision or to do something. That is a leader. You may not have a team, okay? Being a leader having to have a team for leadership disappeared ages ago. So now leadership is being an expert, being someone who people turn to for their expert opinions, their advice, their guidance. Okay, then you're a leader. So if you haven't got a team, it's the same thing. You can apply this. You can help your colleagues. You can help your team members, and your family actually as well. So leadership is much, much bigger now. It's not just about having necessarily got a team. Okay, so anybody got any questions? We've gone over just slightly. It was time for an hour, so apologies for that, folks. I really apologize for the problems to start with. Don't quite understand what happened, but technology. I do this all the time. It's just this particular case. Anybody got any questions?
Good afternoon, John. My name is Ashok. Thank you very much for this session. I had a specific, in my earlier role, I used to be EVP in a bank here in Dubai. I now work in my, but I'm thinking back to a high potential program that we had at the bank. And one of the elements of the program was what we called, we called it a mentoring program. We paired a group of high potential middle managers with a group of mentors that typically were very senior executives in the organization.
Yes.
One of the things that we were very pointed about was making sure that the mentor and mentee belonged to different parts of the organization. So if, for example, if the mentee was in retail banking, the mentor, let's say, would be from compliance or audit or HR or whatever. We made sure about that. Listening to what you said earlier, I'm now, with the benefit of hindsight, starting to wonder whether that was actually a mistake. Because if one of the emphasis in case of mentoring is to reach out to people for subject matter expertise, I'm not going to call it technical or non-technical, then make more sense to have mentors who operate in a broadly similar area of work, even if not exactly the same. So if I'm a mentee from retail banking, maybe a mentor from corporate banking, as distinct from a corporate mentor from, let's say, HR or audit or whatever. So that was my question. I mean, should there be some degree of alignment in terms of what a mentor and a mentee do for a program to be effective?
Okay, that's a great question.
Before John replies, sorry, John, to interrupt. John, before you give a reply, I want to make a small request. We have pasted the link of the feedback form in the chat window. So while John is replying and you have more questions, so please fill in the feedback link before you leave. That is very valuable for us. Over to you, John. And you can scan this QR code as well. Yeah. John, you can ask. Thank you.
Here it is. Yeah. A great question, that, Ashok, actually, and one often people ask. There's no hard and fast rule about this, by the way, because some people specifically ask to have mentoring and or coaching from people outside of their department. They feel vulnerable. They don't feel they can open up. Generally speaking, when it's outside of their own environment, they're more likely to open up more. That's true. On the other hand, if there is somebody within the group, within the environment, within retail banking, let's just say, that somebody that so many people trust and they're clamoring, and that's because of influence, because they've got huge influence, they want to work with this person, or they want this person to mentor them, then it's absolutely fine. There's no hard and fast rule about this at all. When I was at HP, I was coaching people that I'd never met before, to be honest. And then, but equally, my team in South Africa would often call me down to coach them, and I sometimes coached them individually or as a team even, because they wanted this coaching, they welcomed it. So it depends on the situation. There's no hard and fast rule about that, and whether it was right or wrong. So I don't know if that answers your question, Ashok.
It does, John, to a fair degree. I guess in effect, one is saying it's horses for courses. I mean, and rather than go with a pre-decided method, figure out what works best in the context of that particular team or that particular organization. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Even if you ask them, what would you like? Would you prefer? You know,
Okay.
and then people have their preferences. Anybody else got any questions?
Do we have more questions?
Yes, John. I have one question.
Okay. Nissan.
Your one of slides, it was mentioned that coach knows nothing. I mean, about the participants, and this was relation that he have not any idea of the participants.
I'm not hearing that question very well. Nissan, sorry.
Now I'm audible.
Just say it again.
Your one of slides was mentioning that coach knows nothing about participants.
Participants, yeah.
Yeah. So my question is that in coaching, is it a requirement that subject matter expert is a coach? Because in all the sports where we see that a coach is a past professional in that field.
I think I'm hearing it because it's a bit muffled what you're saying, but I think I'm hearing you say, is say a coach, is it need to be somebody independent? Is that what you said?
My point is that in coaching, a subject matter expert will be a coach, because in the sports we see that a subject matter expert or the past professional.
Okay. Okay, we got to be careful a little bit, Nisarg. It's not quite like sports coaching. Sports coaching was tending to be, you know, very experienced and shouting out and so on. You do not need to be an expert at all in the subject in any particular subject, other than how to coach, if that's what that is. If you're a mentee, yeah, you need to be an expert in whatever the field is. This is what I think you said you were asking, but certainly a coach does not need to be a subject matter expert at all, not at all.
Okay, John, if you can stop the presentation and we can request the participants to turn on the video and wave your hand, so I will take a screenshot.
I'm just going to go through
okay.
what we've gone through. All right.
Okay.
So we did look at what exactly is mentoring and coaching, high-level definition, some of the differences. Remember, mentoring, tell, coaching, ask. Some of the essential elements, but they both require listening as a start point. Goal setting, we need to understand what those essentials are. Remember that, SMART goals. And then I've just let you run through the GROW model. We use this at HP. Many large corporates all over the world use GROW. You can use this for yourselves, your own career development. You can do it yourself. What are my goals? What's my reality? What are my options? And what's the way forward? You can do it yourself, or you could utilize this with teams, your own people. And then if you want to learn more about trust, I strongly suggest you come on some leadership or professional development courses, which we run. Okay, so now we are finished. I hope everybody's got that QR code there. If not, just quickly scan it again.
Great.
Quickly scan that. All right. And then once you've done that, we're done.
Oh, great. So we can all turn on our cameras and we can have a nice waving screenshot as a group photo, online group photo.
Okay, let me.
Okay, John, you have to
let me
stop the
stop
screen
sharing.
sharing. Yeah, yeah.
There we go. There we
Oh,
go.
that's great. See, so many people now. Okay.
Wow. Okay. Thank you all. Thank you all so much for joining. And I just apologize about that in the front, in the beginning there.
Thank you. We still have 6, 7 over there.
Thank you.
They are turning it on. Yeah.
Kazi, I assume you're going to take the photo as usual?
Yes, I will take a screenshot. John, you must be missing my selfie today because every time we have a session, I'm bothering you always with the selfie, right?
Absolutely,
So,
but I knew it wouldn't fail. You'd think of something.
okay.
Kazi, and you
So
just
today you are at peace, you know, that I cannot take a selfie today, right?
Okay.
So thanks to all of you once again. So we have done 2 sessions today for this LearnFest series. Some of you might have registered for the other sessions as well. So today our first session was redefine the future of HR. And now we are ending up with the second session, coaching and mentoring skills. So thanks once again. I will take a screenshot now. Let's wave our hands or we'll do like this. And here it goes. Okay. Many people have asked the question regarding the recording of the session and the presentation. So what we will do is, once we are done with all the sessions by the end of this week, we will upload all the recordings on our YouTube page, and we will upload all the presentations, and we will send you a link. So from a single link, you will be able to download all the 9 presentations which are happening this week and all the 9 recordings.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Please,
Have a nice
if
day.
some of you have not filled the feedback form, please fill in the feedback form.
Sure.
Thank you. I'll leave the feedback form up. No, I've stopped sharing now. Have you got it, Kazi? Okay.
Hiba, can you share that screen?
Sorry? You want me to share it?
Yeah, just for last 2-3 minutes. It will be good.
I can share. I can share.
Okay. Have you got it, Hiba?
Yes, Mustafa. Yes, we will upload the link as I explained. So we will upload the link and end all the presentations. Okay.
All right. Fine. So, thank you very much, folks. Bye. Bye. Bye.